Have you ever heard a system gasp when someone pulls the plug? I have. It is not the sound of hardware failing. It is the sound of arrogance collapsing under its own weight. If you build the entire digital subway for a company and one day they decide to kick you off the train, the real question is simple. Do you cut the power in anger, or do you quietly step back and let them realize they never owned the tracks? I chose the second option. My name is Evelyn Carter. I am 34 years old. Or at least that is what my driver's license says. To Northbridge Foundry, I was never a person. I was an LLC. A line item. A recurring expense labeled External Infrastructure Services. They never bothered to learn my face, my voice, or my role. And that was their first mistake. Northbridge Foundry sounds solid, dependable, forged in steel and certainty. They sell software as a service to small and mid-sized businesses. The kind of platform that promises to streamline operations, optimize engagement, and unlock growth. Buzzwords stacked neatly on a sleek dashboard. What their customers never see is the plumbing behind that interface. The pipes. The valves. The pressure systems. The parts that keep everything alive when traffic spikes, payments surge, or 1,000 people try to log in at the same second. That was my work. I was not hired to design buttons or color palettes. I was hired to build the basement. The sewer system. The power grid. When a user logs into Northbridge's platform, they do not talk to Northbridge servers first. They talk to my authentication proxy. The single sign-on system I built from scratch. When a client submits a critical report, it does not hit Northbridge's fragile database directly. It lands in my event queue where it is buffered, verified, encrypted, and delivered only when their system is ready. Telemetry pipelines. Message brokers. Credential vaults. I built the circulatory and nervous system of their entire product. The load-bearing infrastructure nobody wants to touch. Nobody wants to own. Nobody wants to understand. Until it disappears. I was never an employee. That part matters. I had no Northbridge email address. No badge. No Slack channel. I was not invited to virtual all-hands meetings or Friday celebration calls. I never saw the blurry pizza photos or listened to speeches about company culture. I was a vendor. A ghost. A ghost with root access to their entire production environment. I saw every login attempt, every failed payment, every silent near disaster that never made it to a dashboard. They lived in the house. I owned the foundation beneath it. They never once checked the deed. The call that started everything happened 2 years earlier. Their platform was collapsing under its own growth. Their internal team, a handful of junior engineers and one exhausted senior developer, could not keep up. They were too busy shipping features sales had already promised. No one had time to fix the core. The VP of engineering at the time, a man named Mark, found my name through a referral. His opening words were blunt. We need this fixed. Cheap and fast. The holy trinity of bad decisions. He described cascading failures for 10 minutes. I listened, then told him the truth. Your core problem is coupling. Everything depends on everything else. When analytics spike, logins fail. Do not let me build this inside your mess. Let me build it externally. Isolated. Decoupled. Vendor managed. He loved the words. Decoupled. Isolated. Managed. They sounded like something he could put on a slide. More importantly, they sounded like something he would not have to think about. The entire technical approval process for the backbone of their company took less than 7 minutes. 7. He glanced at the first page of my service agreement PDF and replied 30 seconds later. Looks standard. Let's move. No legal review. No procurement. No architecture discussion. Nobody read page 4. Page 4 is boring. Page 4 is where the boilerplate lives. My boilerplate is precise. Section 3, subsection B, services may be deployed on infrastructure owned and managed by the contractor to ensure isolation and integrity. And the sentence that mattered most. All proprietary routing layers, certificate authorities, domain resolution schemas, and key vaults remain the exclusive property of the contractor unless explicitly reassigned in writing upon termination and full payment. They signed it. They agreed that I owned the roads while they owned the cars. So I built it. I spun up my own infrastructure, completely separate from theirs. I registered non-obvious service domains. I built layered authentication proxies. I created my own certificate authority to mint the short-lived tokens their applications needed to trust each other. I designed parallel DNS tables for instant failover. It was clean. Resilient. Invisible. A fortress disguised as a utility. All Northbridge ever saw was a single endpoint to plug into their code. For 2 years, it ran perfectly. 24 months. Over 700 days. Their user base grew by 400%. My systems did not flinch. Dashboards stayed green. Uptime reports showed a flawless line at 100%. And because it never failed, they forgot it existed. They forgot I existed. My only interaction with Northbridge was an automated invoice on the 1st of each month and an automated payment 30 days later. I was the hum in the walls. Essential. Invisible. Completely taken for granted. Then a new variable appeared. Mark had burned out and vanished. His replacement introduced himself through an email signature. His name was Carter Vale. He was 27. His title was Director of Platform Momentum. A title so meaningless it could only come from a business school case study. He had an MBA, expensive shoes, and the confidence of someone who had never broken anything important before. His momentum began immediately. It looked less like acceleration and more like demolition. I saw the effects through my monitoring feeds. He cut log retention from 30 days to 1. He canceled enterprise design tools and told teams to use PowerPoint. He was not optimizing. He was swinging a machete. Then, at 12:41 in the morning, my phone buzzed. An email sent to every external vendor. Subject line. Value query. 4 words in the body. What is your value? I did not reply. My value was the fact that his company was still running. He found my invoice days later. Keystone Loom Systems. A recurring expense that had not decreased quarter over quarter. He flagged it. Investigate. Scope creep. He questioned line items he did not understand. Zone lease. Token minting authority. He thought zone lease meant AWS availability zones. He thought token minting was a simple script. He did not understand that those items were the reason Northbridge survived 3 cloud outages the previous year. The calendar invite arrived the next morning. 1:30 p.m. Title. HR Platform Sync. Attendees. Carter. 2 HR representatives. Me. No agenda. No documents. A meeting without an agenda is never an accident. It is an ambush. I prepared quietly. I pulled the original contract. The uptime reports. The architecture diagrams. I highlighted page 4. At 1:29, I joined the call. Camera on. Neutral background. Carter joined at 1:30. HR cameras off. He smiled. Evelyn, thanks for joining. We are realigning to maximize momentum. Effective immediately, we are terminating the contract with Keystone Loom Systems. He continued reading. Final invoice prorated. Immediate handover required. Repositories. Keys. Access. End of day. I waited, then unmuted. Did you review the service agreement your predecessor signed? He frowned. We need the keys to our platform. I nodded. The platform is yours. The infrastructure is mine. As per the agreement you just terminated. His smile vanished. That was the moment the system inhaled. The moment before everything changed. Carter's face changed in real time. It was subtle at first. A tightening around the eyes. A pause that lasted half a second too long. That's not how this works, he said. We paid you. We own what you built. I kept my voice calm. Calm is not weakness. Calm is control. You paid for access, I said. You terminated that access. The code I've provided is the reference architecture, as required. The production routing, certificates, and keys belong to Keystone Loom Systems. One of the HR icons flickered. A private chat message appeared. Carter, maybe we should review this with legal. He ignored it. This is unacceptable, he snapped. Legal will be in touch. Then he removed me from the call. Not ended it. Removed me. A clean, cold click. The digital equivalent of being escorted out by security. The air outside my apartment was cool. I walked to the coffee shop on the corner, ordered a black coffee, and opened my laptop. Not a company machine. Mine. Keystone Loom's control panel loaded instantly. Northbridge Foundry. Status. Contract terminated. Pending route reversion. This was not a kill switch. This was the architecture they agreed to. When the lease ends, the bridge retracts. I checked one box. Execute passive transfer. Apply. No confirmation dialog. Professional tools assume competence. The routing tables updated. Traffic that had flowed through my systems for 2 years was quietly redirected back to Northbridge's own servers. Servers that had not handled real authentication traffic in 24 months. I enabled the service notice. A simple static page. No branding. One sentence. This service is currently under contractor custody pending contract review. Then I reverted their token policy to default. 60-second lifespan. Any existing session would expire in under a minute. When it tried to refresh, my certificate authority would refuse. I leaned back. Took a sip of coffee. At 1:58 p.m., warnings flickered yellow. Redirect loops detected. At 2:06 p.m., the dashboard went red. Thousands of users logged out at once. Payment authorization failed. Revenue stopped. My phone vibrated across the table. Northbridge CEO. I silenced it. Emails flooded in. Urgent system anomaly. Critical outage. Call me immediately. I closed my inbox. Noise is not data. Minutes later, a forwarded internal chat log landed in my inbox by accident. Carter's mistake. Their war room was in chaos. Lawyers reading page for out loud. Engineers tracing traffic to IP blocks registered to Keystone Loom Systems. She owns the road, someone typed. We just stopped paying the toll. They tried everything. DNS changes. Failed. Browsers threw security warnings. They spun up the demo code I provided. It compiled. It ran. It failed silently when it reached for keys it didn't have. They hammered my gateways in panic and triggered my automated defenses, locking themselves out for an hour. At 2:20 p.m., their largest enterprise clients began sending termination warnings. 90 minutes to restore service or contracts would dissolve. At 3:05 p.m., a message arrived from the board. Polite. Cold. Probing. I did not reply. Instead, I sent a one-page PDF. Emergency Service Restoration License. 90-day lease. 200% emergency premium. Payment upfront. No negotiation. The reply came quickly. The fee is punitive. I left the call when they offered 50% now, 50% later. A leash disguised as compromise. Silence does more work than argument. At 4:07 p.m., Harris emailed. We are prepared to wire the full amount. I agreed to a meaningless 10% adjustment so he could claim a win. At 7:14 p.m., the wire hit my account. Cleared. Exact. I walked to a 24-hour co-working space and opened my console. Restoration is not dramatic. It is methodical. DNS first. Routes reactivated. Certificate authority reinstated. Token policies extended. At 7:19 p.m., health checks flickered yellow, then green. Traffic surged back. Payments processed. The platform breathed again. Their war room erupted. We're back. Logins confirmed. Do not touch anything. I created read-only telemetry accounts for their engineers. Watch, don't touch. I documented the incident. Root cause. Executive termination of critical infrastructure without review. Resolution. Emergency lease. Lessons. The list of things they didn't know they didn't know. The next days were quieter. PR spun a story about a third-party anomaly. Legal tried to build a shadow narrative. I sent receipts. Contracts. Audit memos. 2 years of perfect uptime until the minute Carter pulled the plug. The blame evaporated. Then came the private email from a board member. Anonymous. Warning me that a competitor's investor had orchestrated the chaos to free the asset. To free me. The outage wasn't just a failure. It was a demonstration. Northbridge tried to buy me. Then tried to cage me with exclusivity. I refused both. We settled on a long-term lease. Strategic partner. Not vendor. I added one condition. A dependency catalog. A public internal document listing every system they do not own, who owns it, and what breaks if it's removed. Keystone Loom systems at the top. Consequence of removal. Total platform failure. They agreed. Knowledge written down is harder to ignore. Carter vanished into a title with no power. The engineers learned. The clients noticed. 2 of Northbridge's largest customers sent letters of intent to move directly to Keystone when the lease ended. The market corrected itself. This was never revenge. Revenge is emotional. This was structural. I did not take anything from them. I simply stopped lending them what they never owned. Today, the road is lit. There's a toll booth at the entrance. The sign is clear. Keystone Loom Systems. If you're going to build a bridge, learn the name of the architect. And if this story resonated with you, if you've ever watched competence get ignored until it vanished, leave a comment below and tell me where you're listening from. Hit like if you believe power should be respected. Subscribe to the channel for more stories where quiet leverage beats loud arrogance. Your support helps these stories travel further than any pipeline ever could.